Okay, I'm going to do a little series here on Radio 1 and Weebo's debate that they had over a year ago now, easily, almost two, right? And, you know, what happens through that and everything that goes on with it. And just note that he tried to avoid her and everything after she challenged him back. Of course, he come on my channel and challenged me, and then I agreed, and then he just tried to discredit me, and I'm like, well, let's go. And then months went on, and then he did it again on another video, and he tried to tell me I couldn't talk about the Egyptians anymore, and that was his people, and he's a West African primitive descendant, by the way, West African. And he starts off with trying to pray to his ancestors, which these gods of the Egyptians and Isis, you can tell, is very light-skinned and Caucasian and stuff. And I'll reveal little things, and I'm sure people that are regulars of mine and have seen some of the debunks are going to hear some of the same things out of my mouth again, but it will be clarifying and going adverse to his points here. Just want to give some background whatsoever, so how this had happened, and we're going to listen to him ask Weebo how it started, and then I'll try to edit into it because he shows up like 25, 30 minutes later or something.
And what was the story that led to this debate?
Okay, so very recently, about 3-4 weeks ago, I noticed that there was some Twitter outrage and online outrage with regards to a recreated version of a very well-known ancient Egyptian artifact, Nefertiti's bust, if you're aware of it. And I know it sounds TT and bust. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna mention it in the comment section. Oh well, soon.
Made jokes out of that whenever I was a kid. I wouldn't say it's a fourth grader joke, but whenever it came up, later, whenever we even brushed upon it and everything, never titty, and not nefer, but never titty, and yeah. So, but that name actually means beauty comes to us, and so a lot of people have said she might have been in one of those Amarna things where they traded for princesses and stuff, but then again, no, and now genetics off who is believed to be her body, and even the other one that it may have whatever been shows that it's not so. And of course, that mummy, even though it looks dried up like beef jerky, because that's what happens to natron process, even to a real pale white person like you, Bob Breyer, Mr. Mummy, that's what it's called. Bob Breyer, Mr. Mummy, makes a mummy. Go to that one, and it'll show you him taking this pale dude that's paler than she is right now, but of course he's dead, so it would probably, wouldn't have flesh skin, and then drain away and look more pale. But he does the process to him, 40 days, follows the exact thing that they've all talked about and did. And he ends up looking as dark as beef jerky. I mean, literally. And then they were going to shellac the people and stuff, but he did it so good and wanted to do it like the ones that a few of them that they show that they had done it perfect too, and didn't have to do a secondary such shellacking and coating and sealing somebody, and wrapped him and put special wrappings on him. But that's neither here nor there. Beautiful girl here, and I know she goes to school apparently, and so didn't have much time to probably even brush up on it too much. And it does seem when getting into it that she doesn't know about the earliest of dynasties and things that happen. I'll try to help out, but it's a little too late because shortly the conversation goes off in left field, and she doesn't try to control the conversation. She lets him debate, and then she tries to do a diss on that, or she tries to do a question that leads him down a road where he chokes himself. And quite often he just keeps dissuading and talking about different things and goes off. You'll see what I'm talking about as we do it. But so what did he do?
Anyway, they recreated Nefertiti's bust, and despite the fact that after I did a digital color analysis in my video that actually proved that the bust, the original bust in both dark and light lighting, was kind of, it put the current bust in between color-wise in shades of the skin tone.
Basically what she's saying is that it's even darker than the bust is. They took an average of skin tones that they had on even the people that are red ochre like, and she was apparently paled in the way that they had done her art, and she wasn't near as much, but darker than she is right now. But she doesn't have a tan either, and she's got a lot of Irish descent and everything else. And so over time, things can happen. But if she was to stay out and be a, blonde beach girl, she would get a hell of a tan, just like those girls you see that are surfers and crazy crap. And her hair would be automatically lighter and highlights and all kinds of things that would go with it. But Nefertiti, man, let me just start by going here real quick, I guess, so we can see what she's talking about. They redid her bust, and she had a fit about it. If y'all have seen my recent vids and any of the other ones, probably you are debunks. You have probably seen the thing that, I'll just change and write it here. This is about haplogroup X and how it enters the Americas, and it comes from the Middle East, and that's Amerindians, and it shows a cross that's within them and their genetics from before they went across the ice bridge and stuff, and an ancient similar breaking convergent haplotype. So what am I going to look up? Blue-eyed Egyptians. So this again starts, and so through the actual video here in the series that I do, you'll be able to revert back to this. And 12th Dynasty, which he's going to talk about at one point in there, and she points it out to him, actually has blue crystal eyes, and depending on which way you're standing in front of them, you get a little more left and they look gray blue. Well, this one still looks kind of blue, and then you get more in front of them and it turns blue like this. And of course that's very much like the Sumerian statues and stuff. And you can see 4th Dynasty, very pale, women. And then what we're really talking about is Nefertiti and the way she looks and her color, and that she is missing an eye, but the other eye is blue. You have to kind of take a flash picture up at an angle or something to get it just right, and it's another one of those that color changes, and they say it's oddly a little hazelish, and a couple of the other ones are a little bit, violet in range and gray in range. Now, sure, black people can get, which he's barely out of the screen right there, get blue eyes, but it's more rare than albinisms or something, and also it's a genetic defect. So we're not going to say these were genetically defected negroids and everything and try to make some silly crap out of that. She has thin lips, a Caucasian nose, features and everything. It's not a negroid whatsoever. Even back to the earliest of statues and pre-dynastic, where they have Nakata series. This is the people before, and they have little lapis lazuli blue eyes and things that go with them. And we could go down and see some of the earliest scribes in 4th and 5th Dynasty that have those crystal blue eyes, and they're Caucasians, right? This guy's making fun ancient Aryans because they have blue eyes in all of these ancient cultures, and some people's gods that don't even contain blue eyes. But that's not for this video. We're just talking about Nefertiti and getting that little blue-eyed thing out of the way, right? And so now it's going to lock up on me and really piss me off, because I'm going to have to sit and edit little EBs out of a 40-minute video. Please stop. No, it's just locked up.
despite the fact that after I did a digital color analysis in my video that actually proved that the bust, the original bust in both dark and light lighting, was kind of, it put the current bust in between color-wise in shades of the skin tone. It put it in between the light shade and the dark shade of the actual original bust itself. So even when there was outrage over how light-skinned the bust was, it was kind of ridiculous because the original bust itself was already pretty light-skinned. So I made a video about how it was completely ridiculous to be that outraged over something, especially since she lived 3,000 years ago. We don't know anything about her, and Egypt is arguably one of the more diverse countries in Africa, especially because it's at the apex of where the Mediterranean and the Nile River meet each other. I mean,
Yeah, but all that influx, really, if you went and looked into it, would be North African Caucasians, because that's all North Africa was in ancient times, is types of Caucasians, and then everything runs over Islam and the way it looks now. But it's different than that in ancient times, and up through Egypt and everything. And Nubians weren't allowed into or through Egypt, and they even had a bounty out on their head because of what Nubians had done that was worth more than a live one, and all you had to do was kill one and cut off his right hand, because everybody's mostly right-handed, so you knew that somebody could never carry a weapon again and stuff, and that's it. But were they going around and leaving them alive, and there's a bunch of pirate hooked Negroes running around? No. And West African primitives didn't even know Egypt existed, but that premise you'd have to step over to even go into the Wonderland fantasy that the Afrocentrics have created. Let's continue as she explains it, and then we'll step into it and step forward to where he actually does show up.
It wouldn't make sense for it not to be, diverse, and it is entirely possible that Nefertiti was that light-skinned. So that's where this all started in my video, and I noticed immediately I got a substantial amount of backlash from the Weebo's Kang's side of YouTube.
They have a side.
You don't say.
They have a side.
Wait, so these people were like, the bus should be more like Cheddar Man?
Yeah, and Cheddar Man's been totally debunked on it. Even the scientists that are working on it said it's a myriad of things, and actually this mahogany thing that we're showing you is the highest restraint. What? It's the highest point that usually Caucasians get, even if they're farmers working out all day, or Beach Boys or anything like that. Well, then why'd they paint it like that? Oh, to be a cuckling thing? And it really became a problem, especially for blacks, that was like, we were Cheddars, and it goes, no, he's a Caucasian, genetics, everything. It's just he might have had darker skin than a Nordic. They want to claim that Caucasians are vampires and they can't stand the sun and things like that. And while this guy hasn't gotten much sun and stuff, just as an example, I don't know if it'll show this time, but I'm about cardboard colored and kind of Egyptian tan, but no, a little more cardboard colored, walnut, something like that. But I get real dark. When I used to play golf a lot and things, I'd get caked dark. But I'd have this line on my forehead, right about, like on this guy, right about here, because I wore a hat lots of times, because, man, here in Texas, it gets to be a hell of a thing. And what's funny is above my hat here, it'd be darker and almost cardboard colored like I am. But from here down, I had so much. Now that I've gotten older and I don't play golf anymore and stuff, it's actually exfoliated. Whenever it did at first on my forehead, I was at little blotches. It wasn't like freckles, but it was a darker skin totally, and kind of unique and stuff. But yeah, this is not about me, but that's just about facts and going on. But yeah, it was Kang's.
Yes, essentially, she looked too much like Susan from Apple Care, apparently.
I think it was Susan from accounting or something. I did a video on this about The Real and how they were all talking about it, and how even the black girl that was on the show was wearing a Caucasian mimicking hair hat, and they should have been darker, y'all. And it's like, well, if they're recreating the bust off the colors on it, or do you want to have some other fantasy? And they're like, look, there's black people on the wall, and the only black people on the wall are Nubians, and you aren't even related to them, and these other people are red ochre colored, and they have that same coloration in Greek and Mitanni and Minoan and Etruscan art and stuff, pale women, darker men, they're Caucasians. Look, they have blue-eyed crystal statues starting from the first dynasties. And we've got that covered in the fact that West African primitives didn't even know it existed before radio even shows up. So we will have the mess of it that shows up later. But just an example of what he did say to her.
Because we all know who Susan is from Apple Carrot, right? And of course they use the Becky meme because they always have to use the Becky meme. And I made a video about it. And in the comments section, that's where this started because I got a comment from a gentleman by the name of Radio1, spelled RAIDIO 1.
We call him Radiot. It's like radio idiot.
Supposed to be here too.
Yeah, he is supposed to be here. He made like 3 primary comments and then like sub comments as well. You know how you can like respond to the comment that you've already commented.
He likes to start off kind of snappy, and then on the second one he rooster stuts and starts talking crap and calls you cave beast and stuff. Especially if you've debunked what his first thing says, and he starts to realize you at least know something about it. Then he just wants to talk over you. It's that black thing. Of course, they can't type over you, but they think they are. And then they go into a mode where they think it's a rap battle, and if they won the rap battle, they would all of a sudden, West African primitives would turn into Caucasian Egyptians magically somehow, but that's not the way anything in life works. But they try.
And in 2 of those comments were kind of, well, hostile, to be sure.
How hostile? Like, what did he say exactly?
He called me a cave beast Becky, a white devil cave beast mutant, an evil albino, a dumb white bitch, and my personal favorite, it's a little bit lengthy, a lion cursed with the leprosy, racist, coward, wannabe Egyptian, European cave mutant dog.
Jesus. Oh.
None of that's racist, though. None of that's racist. That's what black people say to each other whenever they dap with each other and call themselves the N-word. Right? I mean, that's not... Blacks can't be racist and hateful and say ignorant things ever, can they?
Oh, and without further ado, hang on.
I recognize the guy by his thumbnail.
I want to try
him.
Yeah.
Here he comes in. They're linking.
Pound through super chats throughout the show.
Okay, no problem.
Just to get people's questions out there that are relevant and just think.
I don't know if I'll do much of the internal questions. They're going to try to, whenever people do like a $5 chat or whatever, they get to give a question that they want to ask either one of them to answer or both of them to answer, even if they're talking about something. Once they get through at that point, go ahead and hit this out there and that type of stuff. So I'm sure I'm skipping a little something, but I'm going to go ahead and skip to radio where he actually shows up. And he's trying to get it hooked up and then turn around to where the camera works.
Many different colors, okay? But when you go to the tomb of Seti 1.
You know what, dude? Click. If you put your mouse, you see your turn camera off. Because what happens is, that happens to me sometimes when my internet's really slow. I turn the camera off for a bit, and then it just runs smoother. Cause
he's got a bad connection and not good equipment and stuff, and it's making him screw up and jitter. And so they're telling him to just turn his camera off, and it'll go to an icon, is whatever his little icon thing is. And he looks like a mess anyhow.
You're cutting out. Your voice is cutting out a little bit.
You talking to me, Radio 1?
Yeah, radio. So
you're Radio 1.
Turn your camera off just because it's taking your bandwidth and slowing down your entire thing. So
you're linking and you're having to push your video simultaneous, and you can't handle it. So just turn off the camera, because that's the big one of the two. So at least we get your voice, because if we see you but can't hear you, it doesn't make a difference. But and now he turns it off.
Yeah, it takes a lot more processing to stream your video rather than just audio.
Yeah. So talk now and let's hear if it's good.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Test.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
much
smooth
better.
as hell.
much better. Yeah.
Much better.
All right. So when you're saying that there is a whitewash of history, and particularly in Egypt, what are you referring to?
Yeah, I'm talking about, okay, the lies that are being told. Okay, now we know. Okay, now I'm not saying that. Okay, the ancient Egyptians had this one look. Okay, now we know that they were, according to their tomb images, they were many different colors. Okay,
Oh, so instantly he's going to start off backing off of the cave beast, you don't know nothing, and due to their very first and earliest images, they're different colors and stuff like I just showed. What color of person is missing in phenotype or missing from all those pictures?
but when you go to the tomb of Seti one, okay, he shows an image where he shows four races of mankind. Okay, he shows the jet black Nubians. Okay, he shows the Nubians who are jet black. He shows the ancient Egyptians who are dark reddish brown.
A red ochre color and light females, just like in Greek, Minoan, Mitanni, Etruscan art, and a lot of people around the entire area.
He shows the Asiatics or the Semites who are light brown.
And they were probably nobles that they were trying to depict, so they wouldn't have been like the farmers from there. They would have been the nobles and the representatives from there. And then because of that, they're showing them to be light, because that's like the priests and things like that, which are also drawn usually much more light. But there's symbolic drawings and stuff, and there's Greek pottery and things that have 3 different colors. And if somebody is black, it doesn't mean anybody's a Negro. But let's go.
He shows the Timahu or the Tamahu, which was the people that dwelt west of Egypt.
Yeah, he likes to pull up Tamahu, and they try to call you Tamahu and say that's what you were. You weren't the Negroes and everything. And the funny thing is that he mentions right there that, well, if you go farther from Libya all the way down, that there's also Caucasians, right? Ha ha. And I don't want to get into this Tamahu thing now. I could go 30 minutes. But now, so North Africa is all Caucasians, and so are the Egyptians, and I already showed it to you from the beginning in origin. But so what standpoint does he have, especially on trying to attach sub-Saharan, West African, primitive Negroids to blue-eyed Caucasian phenotyped, Caucasian-haired Egyptians? And, oh, by the way, this is the OK guy. So I don't know if you kept track yet. If anybody wants to start going through it and trying to keep track, grab a little pen and piece of paper and just put a mark every time he says it, and then we'll add it up at the end and stuff. But it could be your drinking game too. But I warn you, don't drink anything very strong or you will die. Because this guy says okay like he's trying to reassure himself and you about every statement.
They are shown as beige, or what I say white, or fair skin. Okay, these are the 4 classifications of the races of mankind in Egypt. Now, so when I hear people say that the ancient Egyptians were this white Aryan Caucasian race, and they all, and you have some, there are so many different theories concerning the
how dark do you think the Greeks really were that use the same coloration, or the Minoans or anything? And I've heard blacks, because you point that out in the connections, then they start trying to claim they were Greeks, they were Minoans, they were everybody. They'll actually claim any culture, but actually West African primitives, which is what they definitely are. And so it's just a pathetic mess. And they'll never admit to it, but they do make fools out of themselves trying to make themselves part of it. And he's already said that early Egypt was a mix of colored people, but then he tried to say they were Negroids. And of course at the end he wants to destroy it all with everybody that invades, and he gets to that eventually. But let's go. This is just his opening remarks.
race of the ancient Egyptians. Okay, so many theories, and I'm saying that all of them are wrong. They are.
All of them are wrong, but he ism's right, because all of them show that they're Caucasians and they have blue eyes and stuff, and so it couldn't have been anything but a type of Caucasian that would carry a blue-eyed trait, blonde and red hair. And he mentioned Seti and their Seti 1, Seti 2 are known to have had reddish hair. and Seth and Sethites, and it's supposed to go with that. And there are certain names which might have been denoting things like that. And a lot of Egyptologists has gone into it as they notice all these mummies with this Caucasian type hair, dressed up fancy and everything, and the wigs they have that are made out of it too. And none of that's Negroid hair. It's amazingly pathetic that they won't look at any of this information, or they're going to try to discount it and say, oh, was that a white Egyptologist? Well, yes, of course, they're the scientists of the world that know what DNA means and came up with the terms and everything that we're talking about. Meanwhile, West African primitives are trying to grip with the reality and turn around and become the most racist people on the planet, making up jealous lies. Let's continue.
All wrong.
All wrong.
Some people say that they came from the Mediterranean. Some people say that they came from India. And so many different theories, okay?
But what nobody will say was that they came from Negroids, except for a couple of select people, and boy, they grab onto it. But of course, all those people say right off the bat it was like mixed maybe, so they're trying to be real PC is all it really is, and then they disintegrate away. Even, people that aren't Egyptologists that have gotten into it, they start touting them and stuff, like Robert Raval and famous Egyptologists in front of him at conferences have said, hey, if you want to make a mixed possibility out of one group, this one that does the least good pottery compared to everybody around here, we can say that those were Negroids and got ran off and turned into the Nubians if you want, but other than that, it doesn't exist. Now, back to real Egyptology. And I've got that in one of my videos, and he does it right to him, and he tells him not to fall asleep and pay attention so he can learn something about Egypt. While he's there to talk about his crap and how it all hooks up to Orion, which he did find out, he's getting told all about these people and wants to mention a bunch of things that he knows that he doesn't know, and he talks about the earliest boats and stuff and where this symbology comes from in primordial Egypt, and he basically ruins Laval's idea before he takes the stage.
And none of these theories are never debated against each other. They always debated against the truth, okay, which is the ancient Egyptians were Africans, okay?
African meaning Caucasian endemic Africans, like what's shown in the Badarians and Nakata and cultures that ended up making up, the beginnings and part of the beginnings of Egypt, and then what is believed to be the beginnings of the culture of Natufians, which shows their genetics are actually European farmers and hunter-gatherers and Anatolian farmers from like Catalhoyuk and the people that had invented farming coming down into the area and bringing them cows and cattle and grain that had never been there. Sumeria, same grains in the Fertile Crescent, and these people are all hooked up. What's not hooked up is sub-Saharan Negroids. West African primitives are about as far away as you can get it on being on that continent, and they were never off that continent and someplace else, so that pinpoints it down pretty bad. But let's go.
Now, okay, to make a long story short, okay?
Yeah, okay.
This image from the tomb of Seti I, okay, it's pretty much telling us that the ancient Egyptians, although there may have been some that were light skinned, and there may have been some that was very dark skinned, jet black, but the majority.
We don't see any jet black on the wall whatsoever. You see variations of light to good rich red ochre, which does oxidize because it has oxidation into it and darkens over time. Perhaps, don't freak out. Of course, they've tried to say that it lightens over time and everybody was darker. Then you talk to Egyptologists and the paint people and everything, and they go, yeah, it oxidizes over time, and you're a liar. Just like the islands and the places do. It's what makes oxide in the first place, is this oxidation and everything, and it can decay to a darker color. It doesn't turn white, it doesn't turn light, and they had to mix it with things to get certain colors, and whenever they have two people next to each other, they kind of do a lighter and darker so it doesn't look like a cluster of arms and stuff. And the Negroids are the only ones that are drawn in a dark color that even admixed Negroids usually match up to. You can get a one with that light skin, or somebody that's done some Michael Jackson bleaching nowadays, and that's pathetic too, and a Caucasian mimicking hair hat, and all of a sudden I was Egyptians, just because your phenotype is not showing something that looks very Negroid. But yeah.
Were of dark reddish brown complexion or mahogany complexion, okay? And
Mahogany is the darkest of the oxidated all the way down. And again, I get that kind of tone, and I'm Irish. So, but they wanted you to believe that Beach Boys didn't exist. And I grew up in the 60s and stuff, and people were putting suntan lotion on and trying to get dark through the summers and all kinds of stuff, and bleaching their hair out and putting bleach spots on their clothes and stuff like that. And yeah,
some people may say, well, this is symbolic, okay? When they show the women on the tunes as yellow and the man is red, and some people say that is symbolic. But at the same time, there are people in Africa who have that complexion.
they do now. And we've shown in genetics, and 7 Phoenician 7 is basically torn it apart, and what the genetics figure about how long ago this must have happened, and figure it out due to skeletons and genetics they found, and they can see where it comes in and mixes and gets stronger, and where it comes from, and when it goes in and when it goes out, and back to Africa. And what does back to Africa mean? Well, that means these Caucasians went out and back in, but he's going to try to freak out on that statement later. Let's go again. I'm going to try to cut this on near 45 minutes. And so we can go to each one with only a couple of minutes, maybe at the most, in between each one. I have to do it in 15-minute segments.
Who are somewhat of a reddish brown complexion, okay? And when you look at the mummies.
Can I take a moment?
Go ahead.
Hey Andy, I actually have that image that he's referring to. If you don't mind if I screen share?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is the actual image that you're talking about, correct?
I can't see it.
It's not.
Can you?
I want to present my screen.
Yeah, I'm presenting the screen.
Okay. So sorry. This is the image.
You see it?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, that is a distorted image.
That's not a distorted image. That's what somebody drew off the wall from what they figure it exactly looked like. And you can see these Libyan, North African Caucasians. This one even has reddish brown hair and tattoos all over their body. And the only Negroid phenotype with a bulbous head and prognostic jaw is the Negroid. And that's the only one there that is. I get that dark. Hopefully it shows this time. Sometimes it doesn't do with the light. I get that dark. I don't know how you get somebody Nordic looking down there and Nordic looking down there, but that is a light pink color, tan at the best, as you would say, beige, whatever. And there's the only Negroid. And later they'll be shown as being wrapped up in things and enslaved, and with their gold earring usually and stuff, like a slave.
That's not the accurate image.
Oh, I have the other image actually.
Because the real image, on that image right there that you're showing,
Yeah.
that image it shows the Asiatics as white. Okay, they are as white as the Tamahu or the Timahu. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not supposed to look like that, and it shows it.
They could be slightly more. So is this saying that some of these people are Nordic already in North Africa? Is that what he's insinuating when he says this?
The ancient Egyptians as light brown. Okay, but on the actual rendering, okay, that is a false rendering. There's another rendering that shows all 4 races of mankind with four different complexions.
I think I know.
It's really kind of 4 different complexions, but that was a redraw of it and everything. But at the same time, only one of those would be a Negroid type, and it's a Nilotic, and it doesn't have any connection to West African primitives.
Which image you're also talking about?
Yeah. Do you have that one, or?
I do have that
I hope
one.
it's a Photoshop one.
I actually made a video on that image. It shows.
Then it probably is.
That
the
image?
actual.
All they do is go a little bit darker on the whole image. They just take contrast and run it over a little bit, and so it makes the lighter people even just a hair lighter, and the darker ones even darker. And so you can see the Egyptians, and especially this one is darker than these 3. But you can see them and their Caucasian phenotype. If they don't have a beard still, that's the same heads on them. But this bulbous head is a different thing that's on them. And even in these people here too. Now sure, they're lighter than these Caucasians that are tanned and here. But you can also notice, see how that is lighter than that. And they are the same people, it's just more of them. And so we can see that effect. But even this dark coloration is the color that the Mitanni and the Minoans and the Greeks and everything, and we know how pale they are, but there are workers and things like that, and this is the symbology they use, just like the Greeks did. Pale women are nobility, and this is considered nobility. They are all decked out and tattooed up. That happens to nobility. These are considered nobility.
Yeah, the actual tomb images compared to the... There we go, right there.
That image?
Yes.
The artistic rendering image?
Yes. That is the most accurate.
And that, by the way, is not even straight off the wall. It's another artistic rendering and been photoshopped. She just said it, and he said yes.
Image right there.
The artistic rendering image done by, I believe his name was Giovanni Battista Belzoni.
Boom.
So that's not the original.
No, it's not the original, because the original
It's the most
was
accurate.
significantly damaged by time.
And there's flicks of paint that are only in places and stuff, and they pretty much recreated off of that and what these people look like. And who gives a crap if these two Caucasians are slightly toned darker than each other? She's a little darker than that guy is. They're both Caucasians. The blacks want to claim anybody, but you know, it's gotten way out of hand. We're about to switch in a few more minutes.
Damaged if you actually look at it. And we can actually go to the Tomb of Seti. There's an actual virtual tour that you can take of the Tomb of Seti the First.
He doesn't want to do that. I actually did a video on it, and while it does show some of these darker images, it's all of a sudden these pale images. And so at the best they have is then they try to pull off some mulatto cross and with white women running around and go, yeah, there's your fantasy too, Negro. Stop. West African primitives didn't even know Egypt existed. Stop. No, I can't stop coveting. I'm caught in a lie. Let me lie more. That'll fix it.
And if you look through the entire tomb, you find that there are a variety of different images depicting people of all different skin tones.
Blonde-haired people, too, on some of these workers that are even the dark color, blonde-haired. But you can't show that. They won't ever show it, and they keep away from the pale women. They are very known for cropping the women out of the photograph and going, look at this one. And they Photoshop it a little darker, and you can tell they manipulate it. And why are you manipulating, Negro? Why are you lying and manipulating and shucking and jiving?
All looking like Egyptians with their own Egyptian garb, right? But they're all different skin tones. So I have to ask, if you're going to use the Tomb of Seti the First as a reference with regards to prove your point, how can you reconcile the rest of the tomb as opposed to this artist rendering of something that has been damaged throughout time?
He can't before he even talks, but what about earlier than that? For Seti is way down here in the lineages, and I showed you where they started out with real pale women that are paler than her with blue eyes and stuff. Word. Oh, that was a Negro. Really? Stop. You look pathetic.
Tomb on a wall.
Okay, first of all,
Counting those
the
okays?
tomb image itself is somewhat faded, so it looks nothing like it did, during the time of Seti.
It ain't faded. It's all chipped off and just about gone, oxidized, and went to crap. It's been inundated and had problems. They've got a lot of other ones that look great. Sure, they've got some that show some images as dark as that color is right there that you see, but they've got other images that are much lighter, and the women are light and the men are dark, and this is a scale of Caucasian skin coloring here, and of course the red desert and the yellow and all this goes with, and none of it's about Negroids. It's got to be about me. Well, if there's two people, one of them is a Negro, and it's like, no, stop. West African primitives didn't even know this existed. Please quit.
It was 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. It looked nothing like that. Many of the images in ancient Egypt, in Egypt today, are faded by time. Okay?
See, he keeps trying to push this faded by time situation rather than a possible oxidated color, and then the wooden statues, which get dark over time just like your fence, weren't like the color of the yew wood that they used. No, it faded.
Some people say, well, these images darkened by time. No, actually they lightened by time. Okay,
No, they don't. Okay, and it's not okay. Okay, and man, if y'all are drinking, you might want to stay off for a little bit. I don't know what number we're at. I'm going to take a shot at 30, but let's continue.
because when something fades, that means it gets lighter.
Yes, and they aren't saying that that paint has actually faded, even though most of it chipped off, but it has oxidated to be a darker color in most situations, and a lot of greens because they used a lot of copper and oxides into them, like a penny will get when it, oxidates, or the stuff on the terminal of your battery ends up turning blue, and you've got these plants that look blue and stuff, and they figured out what they're using and how they created some of the pigments and everything out of it. And the scribes tell you it's passed from father to son, and those blue-eyed scribes I showed a minute ago. Let's go.
Okay, do you understand that? Okay.
Yes, I do understand that.
Yes.
But
Okay, so
lighting is usually what fades images, and these are in tombs underground. So
Oh snap, you're not going to say that they were sun faded whenever they haven't seen the light of day. Well, Negro tried that, and he tries to discount exactly what the scientists say, like, well, I have to refute that or I'm a liar. So let me just say that scientists are wrong, but me is smart.
how exactly do you reconcile that?
Can't.
what is again lighting?
Lighting is usually sun. Ultraviolet rays is usually what fades color from artistic,
Stalling.
pigmentation. So how could exactly fading occur underground?
Well, we do know that they were faded. I mean, because if you look at the statues,
Gonna make something up now? Even though it's been proven exactly the opposite, you're gonna go, well, we know. Well, who are we? The Negroids that are from West Africa that aren't even related to anybody that even knew Egypt existed are gonna is that part of we somehow?
you see like on some of them, you see like a little inchy. I mean, just a little bit of paint, like little leftovers, of paint on the face. So, and I don't know if this was caused by the sun or whatever, or somebody, or somebody going.
Usually by a Nile flood or something where it gets inundated by water again and then recedes. Some of them have just been destroyed literally by that. Other ones didn't get affected by it, and it's amazing which ones didn't. And now you can see how the paint is kept for that many thousands of years. It's incredible. People have said, oh, you repainted it and threw dirt on it and dusted it off. And it's like, no, it kind of looks like that, but you can tell, and it's all chipped in this area and this, but it really looks good. You can tell when the masters were doing it and the secondary people were doing it by far. And you can see where they did their stenciling when they were letting other people paint. And there's tombs where people messed up some painting that are shown in a couple of guys. If you go real deep into it, all kinds of things. If you go real deep into it, Negroids don't have anything to do with it.
Somebody doing it on purpose, you can't really say that.
No,
And
they try to
but,
say
but
that.
we do know that a lot of the images, some of them don't even have color at all. Some of them you just see like little spots of color, of showing that it used to have color, but the majority of the statue have no color at all. It just
Yeah, and so you just can look at the phenotype and say, well, nothing changed, and they're still those Caucasians, and they don't have a prognostic jaw like he even has today. If you ever get a good look at him, each one will have a picture of him on front of it, probably, that I've made fun of. We're going to go to part 2 right now. It's in your top left-hand corner, and we'll get on to more of his lies and tried deceptions. Peace.